Welcome to the Darkstream, VoxDay, voxday.blogspot.com, and unauthorized.tv. Sorry I'm late, and I also apologize for some of the background noise. It's really hot, so I got a fan going here, and there's also some heavy machinery going outside, and so there's going to be a little bit of background noise. Not much we can do about that, but we'll see what we can do. So what are we talking about tonight? Well, we're talking about something that is incredibly relevant. In fact, is something that I've been actually working with very recently, and that's understanding and defeating an SJW. So what do we mean by this? What am I talking about here? First of all, let's begin with Sun Tzu. And welcome to Orc Slayer Bear, who is in the chat for the first time as a member live. Also, welcome to Morse Code Bear. A lot of bears joining the channel. That's very cool. So, how to debate and win. It's not about debate. I'm not talking about debate. I am talking about serious conflict. I'm talking about when you're dealing with your job, when you're dealing with various personal attacks, when you're dealing with situations inside corporations. And, you know, this is, hey, Owen's here. I hope he's better at jumping rope. I can't jump rope and listen to Owen at the same time. I'll tell you that right now. So what is the first step? We got to go back to Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu tells us, if you know yourself and you know your enemy, you're going to win every time. If you know yourself, but you don't know your enemy, you're going to win 50% of the time. Same thing as if you know your enemy, but you don't know yourself. And if you don't know yourself and you don't know your enemy, you're going to lose every time. And welcome, Deep Bear. So what does this mean? This means we always have an advantage when we're going up against an SJW. Why? Well, SJWs always lie. They lie about you, first of all. They absolutely lie about you. They often lie about themselves, but it's possible that they know themselves. They can't know you. They have to lie about you because you don't fit the narrative. The truth about you doesn't fit the narrative. And welcome, Scooby-Doo. I like that name, actually. So, first of all, you've got an advantage if you are honest with yourself about and about them. We have the truth, and we have the truth. They don't. But we're not talking here about winning by ignoring them. That's something different. We're not talking about not acknowledging their existence or mocking them and stuff. We're talking about serious conflict. We're talking about when you're battling for your job. We're talking about when you are in a legal dispute, when you are in a situation that is an actual conflict, not when you're posturing and debating and engaging in internet drama. We're not talking about that. We're talking about serious conflict. And welcome, Jordan F. So first of all, we know that we have an advantage if we tell ourselves the truth and if we pay close attention to them. What else do we know about SJWs? Well, SJWs always double down. Why is that relevant? Allow me to explain. Once they take a position they don't like to move from it because that means they have to change the narrative. And what do we know about SJWs? They hate to go against the narrative. They cling to the narrative. They will only shift the narrative when whoever is defining the narrative changes it. And then, of course, they will magically all shift like that, like a giant school of fish, right? So, hang on a second. I got to... bug here. Sorry about that. I should have muted the mic first. So, why am I bringing this up? Why am I talking about this? Well, a lot of times when you're in a situation in a corporation, or when you're in a situation where there's a dispute of some kind, you don't have the full picture. You don't have the complete picture. But you do have the advantage of knowing how the SJWs operate and how the SJWs think. Welcome, Bunny Bear. And so what that means is you know what they're going to do. You can anticipate their actions. That's why, if you notice, the subtitle of SJWs Always Double Down is Anticipating the Thought Police. So why is this interesting? So we have been in a situation, I have to be a little bit delicate here. We are in a situation of conflict, and we are trying to understand their position and their objectives so that we can figure out where they want to go with it. Hang on a second. I'll be right back. I need to check on something. I think it's just a fox, but I need to check on something. Sorry about that. No, it's nothing to be concerned about. We have a lot of wildlife, and there's like animals I didn't even know existed, and some of them make disturbing noises in the evening. It's usually the foxes. But sometimes it's the like weasels and whatnot. Anyhow, it's all good. So anyhow, we're talking about SJWs. And welcome SPQR Cincinnatus. So why does it matter that you know what they're doing? Why does it matter that you can anticipate what they're doing? Well, for example, in the current, from our perspective It was totally irrational, right? From our perspective, we had no idea what they were talking about, okay? And so, yeah, the fox is going after the internet connection, I suppose, huh? Anyhow, so we're looking at this and we're discussing this among ourselves, saying, how does this make any sense? Because I do believe that everything happens, or at least human activities happen for a reason, right? And so we're looking at this situation going, I don't get it. Why would they make these decisions in light of what we know the facts to be? Again, we're talking about the facts. We're not talking about opinions. We're not talking about perspectives and stuff. We're talking about the absolutely incontrovertible facts. But then when you look at it from the perspective of the SJW, what do we know about SJWs? They lie. They double down. They also project, but that's not relevant here. So when you're expecting somebody to behave in a rational manner and they're not behaving in a rational manner, in a self-serving manner, then what do we know? We know that they've got some fly there. We know they've got some other motivation. Well, what's the motivation of an SJW? An SJW always wants to cover his ass. He wants to protect his job and he wants to defend the narrative, right? So the funny thing was, we're looking at this going, how does this situation make any sense? And then when I started looking at it from the perspective of, okay, what if we're not dealing with a rational individual here? What if we're dealing with an SJW and we know who some of the SJWs are? Suddenly we can start figuring out who's calling the shots. See? You know, from the way that people are behaving, you can actually tell who's calling the shots. Bill Belichick calls a very different defense than Greg Williams. If you're a football fan and you're watching a defense and they're blitzing like crazy and they're pretty much showing the same sort of, the same sort of look, then you're dealing with a very different defense that when you have another defense that almost never blitzes and doesn't even show you a look until after the offense is set. Then you know you're dealing with a Coach Zimmer defense. You can tell who is calling the shots on the basis of the behavior observed. And so we realized, the person calling the shots is an SJW. Why would and suddenly everything became completely clear. Everything that was happening throughout the entire process suddenly became very clear. And the funniest thing about it all was that, just to double check that, we know the situation so well that we were actually able to specifically identify a specific individual. And this is the punchline. So I go on to a corporate site to confirm that the individual we suspected would be in a position to do what we were thinking. And the punchline is, they were stalking my page just a few hours before. I mean, that might as well have been a DNA stamped confession in blood. And so now we've gone from not understanding what sort of madness is going on. Now everything makes sense. Now we know what their objective is, what's driving them, that the whole situation makes sense. And so that's the importance of knowing yourself. We had to know ourselves first. Are we convincing ourselves of our own nonsense? Are we seeing what we want to see? Are we looking at what we want to look at and ignoring the reality? No. We were being very, very ruthless in looking at the situation. So then, are we being accurate about the other side? Well, we know that certain players are rational, other players are not. Some players have a objective of the company being successful. Others are more concerned with their own position. And so that's why it's so important to understand and master the principles that are in SJWs Always Lie, that are in SJWs Always Double Down. Because it's not just about SJWs. It's also about mastering the difference between rhetoric and dialectic. It's about mastering the socio-sexual hierarchy. And it's kind of funny because we've literally been confused for the last couple months. The whole time we've been going along going, what is going on? This doesn't make any sense. Why would anyone choose this particular route? But now we know. Now we get it because we understand the situation, we understand ourselves, and now we understand exactly what we're dealing with. And so that's why I would encourage you, you can, if you're a subscriber on Unauthorized, you can listen to, I think, both of those books for free. I know you can listen to at least part of SJW's Always Lie, and I believe the entirety of SJW's Always Double Down is already up there. These things can and will help you when you're dealing with not just SJWs, but it will particularly help you when you are dealing with SJWs. Welcome, LRN News. Good to see you here. And so, that's the focus of my message for tonight is when you can apply the combination of Sun Tzu, logic, and the 3 laws of SJW, you can put yourself significantly ahead of whatever conflict you find yourself. Doesn't mean you're necessarily going to win everyone. Jeez, I hate these fucking flies. One of the Ridgeback hunts them, but unfortunately she goes to bed earlier, so I'm left on my own. But yeah, so study this stuff. Learn it. You don't need to memorize everything, but you need to grasp the basic concepts and learn to apply them when you see them affecting your own life. So we got a couple super chats here. Let me address those. There's a couple that I missed here. Trish asked yesterday, do you believe in confession to priests? No. I believe in confession to God. Let's see. And SJW wants to protect their culture. Also, what are we talking about, Vox? We're not talking about the details. We're just talking about conflict with SJWs and how you can expect to understand their objectives and to come out ahead in your conflict with them. Hey, Vox Day, would you come back on JF's show to talk to him sometime? No, I'm not. I mean, I'm not doing media and talking to people and alternative media and that sort of thing anymore. It only seems to cause problems. I have no problem with JF. It's not. I'm not. I appreciate the offer, but I'm just not doing that anymore. I have very, very little time these days. We literally just finished filming the new documentary tonight, and between the unauthorized, the documentaries, the Rebels Run movie, the books I'm trying to write, the legal dispute with Indiegogo, I just don't have time for that kind of stuff anymore. So the Dashing Rogue says $10 as a gesture of good faith. What are some good Talmud quotes? Get a copy of the Talmud and look it up. I have a contact who can refute the quotes with primary citations. Any good ones you can give me now or in an email? No, I'm not interested in getting into a debate over the Talmud. I have literally no interest in that at all. It's the whole game of the Talmud. I mean, frankly, I've been dealing with enough lawyers for the past 9 months. All the Talmud is a bunch of lawyers lawyering their way around the Jewish law laid out in the Old Testament. I mean, that's literally what it is. And so, kill quotes don't even apply, because no matter what it says, you will find somebody else to say something else. They say, well, that's just that lawyer's opinion. There's these 7 other lawyers over here. I mean, the whole thing is it's just it's not a game I'm interested in playing. Legionnaire Bear once said something like, Jesus told us to fight. I'm a new Christian. Can you explain a little more? Yeah. Jesus said, if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one. If you are of a literal persuasion, a lot of people try to take the whole, if someone slaps you, turn the other cheek. If someone asks you to carry something a mile, carry it 2 miles. And then they try to interpret that as meaning that you can't fight to defend yourself or others. That's not true. It can't be true. Jesus specifically said he comes to divide. The next time he comes back, he's coming back at the head of an army. So Christianity is a much more militant faith than most people recognize. Welcome, above average size bear. A lot of bears joining tonight. That's kind of crazy. I like it. Oh, that's not a spider. That's a fly. Wrong side. Donovan says, there are differing Talmuds, the Babylonian Talmud, the Jerusalem Talmud, and a book called The War of the Two Talmuds. Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be some explanation for this, that, or the other thing. I'm more than happy to leave those learned debates to those who practice that religion. Do you believe the part of the evolution narrative that says we all came from Africa? I'm a bit dubious about it because as I understand it, there's, first they embraced it, and then now they found some new DNA evidence that indicates that may not be the case. And then there's this, well, maybe they came out of Africa and left and then came back. I don't pretend to know things that I can't. I don't know. I have no idea. Max says that Owen's been doing some good transvestigating lately. Okay, I will say flat out, I do not believe for a second that Sandra Bullock is or ever was male. I find that extremely unlikely. I will admit that some of those pictures are rather gruesome, and who knows? Who knows what those that we had that. Somebody's saying, it's not so much that I had a crush on her. It's that Space Bunny looks like her blonder, hotter cousin. So there's obviously some aspect of that particular arrangement of features that appeals to me. It was kind of funny because she was always denying it, and then my father, who never ever goes to see movies and doesn't know anything at all about celebrities and couldn't name, he couldn't have named Michael Jordan if shown a picture of him at the peak of his fame. And so he got dragged to a movie by my mother and came back. He's like, there was this girl who in the movie, and she looked a lot like Space Bunny. I mean, different color hair, but she really looked a lot like her. I started laughing, like, and what movie was that, Dad? He's like, I don't know, something about like the FBI and like a beauty queen thing. I was like, Miss Congeniality? Yeah, that was it. Spaceman is like, okay, fine. So, anyhow, so it's all good. But so that being said, there's I mean, who knows? Hollywood is so completely insane and evil and corrupt and twisted that that I can't possibly imagine what the limits of their madness is. It's just Owen Benjamin is not losing his mind. This is not a cult. You're just a loser. Gamma, question everything. And you're banned. Come on, members. Show us the sign. You know you want to. You know you want to use those emojis. Welcome, Timeless 9U. So let's see. There we go. Saracen Bear's on top of it. I have to admit, I've never really gotten emojis, but now I'm beginning to kind of understand how they can be fun. Especially when they're tomahawks dripping with blood. So, anyhow, do you think soccer will ever become really popular in the USA? Well, I think it'll become popular in the part of the USA that eventually becomes known as northern Mexico. But no, I mean, soccer is a great sport. It's a wonderful sport, but it doesn't compete with football. Football's a totally different sort of thing. A GIF emoji. That'd be funny. Yeah, so no, I enjoy it. Welcome, Maniac Bear. And I agree with Moose that everyone should read Neon Revolt's full article. It is excellent. A lot of detail, a lot of eye-opening connections. And so, and that's right. We have a word for real science that is reliable and proven and true, and that word is engineering. If it's not engineering, you can't count on it. Science, look, science is less reliable than flipping a coin. Flipping a coin is more reproducible than modern professionally published science. A lot of people don't recognize that because they're not paying attention. So, so don't put your trust in science. You can put your confidence in engineering, but science is total nonsense. Well, that's not quite true. Science is about 52% in the brothers Karamazov. What's the best approach towards fighting Zyokons like Peterson, Harris, and Shapiro? Remember, it's Shapiro. The best approach is the truth. Their Achilles heel is the fact that they constantly have to lie. You can catch them in lies all the time. They lie about Palestine. They lie about their allegiances. They lie about their own positions on war. It's very, very easy to prove that they are not honest because they're not. You know, Shapiro is constantly disavowing his past calls for war with Iran while he's calling for war with Iran. It's crazy. You know, the guy has no credibility whatsoever. Who do you think is responsible for pushing the SJW agenda? Well, the media, obviously. You know, look at who owns the large media companies. Those are the individuals primarily responsible. Try and Speak says, have you ever had Chopetino wine? I don't think so. Why is it the best wine? I don't agree that it's the best wine. So, no, I don't think that Mystery Babylon establishes the SJW narrative. That's way below their pay grade. You know, the media establishes the narrative, and then all the SJWs adjust accordingly. Theory that successfully predicts new observations is actual science. No, it's not. Science cannot be theory. That's logically impossible. Because hypothesis followed by testing is scientody. It is the scientific method. So as long as you just have a theory, whether it's accurate or not, that's not science. That's just the first step in the scientific process. Is Ben Shapiro Italian in ancestry? I thought only people with vowels ending in last names were Italian. No, that's not true. But ironically, Shapiro is actually about half Italian because the Ashkenazi Jews genetically are a mix of Semitic and Italian. Above average size bear says, hey Vox, I'm a subscriber to Unauthorized TV. Awesome, thank you. And recently picked up Summa Helvetica and Throne of Bones. Thanks for all the great content. Glad I can help support here now too. That's right, you're a new member, welcome. Looking forward to the future. Actually, I have some really good news about Unauthorized. We are going to be launching a new program on it very soon. And it is going to be a very popular program, a very light-hearted one. And if you know my wife well enough, then this will be an interesting clue for you that might tell you a lot. Space Bunny was actually very excited when I told her who had contacted me and what we were planning to do for a new show on Unauthorized. It's probably going to launch next week. There will be a subscription to support it, but it's going to be free, of course, to everybody who's already subscribing. And this is something that's going to be very different than anything else that's on there. Packed full of what Owen would call logos. Extremely heartwarming, very, very positive, and I think, and it's going to introduce a lot of new people to Unauthorized TV because there's virtually no overlap between the current Unauthorized subscribers and this person's very large following. So I think this is going to be a big step forward for us. I think it's going to be very surprising. No, Savanier, I'm not going to tell you. It's going to be a surprise. That's the whole point. You'll enjoy it more with this kind of anticipation. And I guarantee you, it's going to surprise you. I'm not going to tell you what it's related to at all, other than the fact, the only clue is that it's something that Space Bunny is very excited about. Baron von Metzengerstein says, have yet to be disappointed in any of the Unauthorized shows. I think Professor Brown's is my favorite, although I really enjoy Chuck Dixon's Q&A show. Vox signed Joe Rogan. That seems likely. PewDiePie. Yeah, my wife is a big follower. It's not PewDiePie. Let's see here. Got around to watching the Sword documentary today. Quality is as high as it gets. Was super impressed. We're hoping that the documentary that we finished shooting today, Jordan Peterson. I know you have dozens of things going on, but do you have an update on the Nala? Do you think you can do something with a? Can you give us a Toe Rogan emoji? So let's see here. Yeah, I don't think we're going to do videos of our dogs. You know, one of them is shy. One of them's he's a bit of a camera clown. Speaking of Toe Rogan, what is his current height? You'd have to ask Owen. I don't track that. I just kind of go by what the experts say. Yeah. Yo, George Soros is going to be doing an investment channel. That would be hilarious. Let's see. What do you think of Seraphim Rose's idea that UFOs, aliens, are actually demons? I think that's entirely possible. Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. Do you know any Cane Corso breeders in Italia that you could lead me to? No, actually, the only Cane Corso I know is in Spain. and I don't know a breeder. I just happen to know a guy with one. The Dashing Road says science equals conscience. Okay. Oh, apparently, according to Kevin, one Rogan is actually officially 3.33 inches. That makes sense. That makes sense. How do people like Peterson and Shapiro manage to appeal to so many people despite their lack of charisma? Because they're pushed incessantly. You know, I mean, there was a while a couple months ago that you couldn't show up on YouTube without having a Ben Shapiro video crammed down your throat. There is an incredible amount of money behind these guys pushing them. And so, you know, you shouldn't be surprised, and people fall for it. They you know, people have a tendency to go. There we go. People have a tendency to go where they, get one, another one shows up. Anyhow, people believe what they're told. Oh, you know, I mean, nothing attracts a crowd like a crowd. They're told, oh, you know, Joe Rogan is super popular. You should go listen to him. And so they do, you know? And I mean, it's kind of funny. A lot, I remember reading William F. Buckley and thinking, you know, oh, William F. Buckley is supposed to be really smart. And I remember reading his stuff going, I don't think he's that smart, you know? And I read I read a couple of his novels, and I was like, these novels are not very good. You know, but they were talked up so much that it took me a while to figure out that it was just nonsense. Yeah. SPQR Cincinnatus has it right. Always beware of situations where your attention is strongly where they're trying to direct your attention. Exactly. If they're trying to direct your attention, then it's probably part of the narrative. Welcome, Taffy. Where were you? Says, I tried about 4 times and never finished a Joe Rogan Experience podcast. Yeah, I've never watched an entire Joe Rogan show. I tried watching 3 or 4 times, and it's just like, this is not that interesting to me, you know. Which is kind of funny because I will occasionally, you know, turn on Owen's stream or something, and it's kind of funny too because it's not like he talks about me all the time, but I have a weird ability to turn it on, and it's like usually within 10 seconds he mentions my name. I'm like, does he talk about me that much? And then I realized, no, I just, you know, 3 or 4 times in a row happened to have turned it on at just the moment where he happened to make reference to me for one reason or another. But the funny thing is, you know, I'll turn on Owen's stream for a second, you know, for one reason or another. I'm you know, checking my comments on YouTube or whatever. And, you know, I usually end up finding myself watching for 10 or 15 minutes when I don't intend to. You know, I mean, I was laughing so hard. And, you know, when there was that joke writing with the Bears, and somebody said something about, oh, you know, a joke about the difference between, you know, city neighbors and rural neighbors. And he just, without missing a beat, he says, hey, can I borrow a couple bullets? You know, and it wasn't that the joke was so hilarious in and of itself. It was the speed with which he came up with it that was very remarkable. And I thought that was funny. Legionnaire Bear says, I think Rogan's will be the only surviving system of measurement discovered by a future civilization. That's hilarious. I mean, the thing that's remarkable is that you see these, like there's this English YouTuber, a girl, she died about a week ago in a traffic accident. And, you know, very pretty girl. real tragedy. But she was referred to as this big YouTube star. And I went and looked. I was just kind of curious, like, okay, what is a YouTube star? And it made me laugh because, she had more followers than Owen, like 300,000 something. But her average number of views was less than my channel. So there's this bizarre narrative about who's popular and who's not, and the numbers and all that nonsense that Owen quite rightly ignores, and that I ignore, because so much of it's nonsense. I mean, you look at these people that have 1 million followers on Twitter, but if they do a tweet, there's like 6 retweets. So there's all this nonsense, all this fiction. There's a Princess Bride question. Why do you hate it? Because I don't like the humor. I don't find the, what, for lack of a better term, we'll call the New York, Borscht Belt Jewish humor to be funny. I mean, people they quote it all the time, and it always puzzles me because it wasn't funny in the movie. It's even less funny when you are hearing people quote this stuff, because it's pure subversion of European archetypes. I don't like, as a general rule, I don't like subversion, and I don't like subversive humor. It just, and I've never, and just to be clear, this isn't like a political thing. I do like Monty Python, but, for example, I really I intensely dislike Mel Brooks. Like, just to be clear, I don't hate The Princess Bride. I just don't find it particularly amusing. It's well done. It's well executed. But I absolutely hate Mel Brooks. I don't think Mel Brooks is even remotely amusing. I also don't like Gene Wilder. I think Gene Wilder is creepy. I've always thought he was creepy. And Blazing Saddles had its moments, I will give it that. But, Blazing Saddles also had, the big joke is a fart scene. That does not, I don't find that amusing, and, I mean, if you want movies that I find funny, I thought that The Gods Must Be Crazy was really funny. I thought Monty Python and the Holy Grail was really funny. I thought Grosse Point Blank was hilarious. It's one of my favorite movies. I love the Pink Panther movies. Being There was, it takes a while and it creeps up on you, but then it was absolutely hilarious. Tony Drillard says, this platform likes to direct our attention to Wikipedia in their info boxes. It would be funny if Unauthorized had info boxes to Infogalactic. That could work. Yeah, I don't like scatological humor. I don't like bodily function humor. I don't like most slapstick, although slapstick does work very effectively when it is used artfully at just the right time. The funniest thing I have ever seen, other than my best friend belting out Like a Virgin in a pink taffeta gown in front of 800 people who were crying because they were laughing so hard, is a scene where all the elite liberals go and get their culture on. But it was so funny that my best friend was literally slamming his head back into the headrest behind him, and my date had to, at the intermission, had to go to the ladies' room to throw away her underwear because she had wet herself. It was so funny. It was absolutely hilarious. Big Lebowski was funny. I don't think it was as absolutely hilarious as its aficionados would have you believe, but it's definitely amusing. I don't know who David Sedaris is. Idiocracy is actually quite funny. Daniel Escobar says, I was arguing with Yaron Brook about immigration yesterday, and I advertised your content, and Yaron then called you a racist and a xenophobe. Yeah, that's called projection. I mean, these guys are just pathetic. They are the most racist, the most supremacist people on the planet. Even the Japanese can't compete with them. And, all they do is they turn around and project their own thinking onto others. I'm a xenophobe. I've lived in a number of different countries. I speak at least a smattering of 5 different languages. I'm much more accurately described as a xenophile. But that's not the narrative. They have their little narrative they have to push. That's why I don't take these people seriously. They're jokes. Cheech and Chong I don't find particularly funny, but I don't find them that annoying either. It's Kevin Smith occasionally has his moments, but it's not my thing. Like I don't like Quentin Tarantino. Never had any interest in his films. Rodney Dangerfield had his moments, but he was such a Johnny one note. Chris Farley could be pretty funny. Yeah. That skit with Patrick Swayze trying out for the whatever they're called, the Chippendales. that was funny. I also liked his painfully awkward interviews. So do you remember when you were in the Beatles? That was great. Yeah, Norm Macdonald rules. Norm Macdonald is fantastic. Dogma had its moments. I enjoyed the airplanes. The airport scene was funny, but it was a little bit too clumsy. Dogma had the seeds of a great movie in it, but it would have actually been better, ironically enough, if they'd had some actual Christians involved in doing it. Because, some of the stuff was just off. They didn't get it right. I mean, even if they were going to steer it the way they did, it would have been a lot more powerful, a lot more effective if they'd had a better understanding of the theology involved. Just the how's about Yellowbeard and Time Bandits? never seen them that I can recall. Stay strong, Legionnaire Bear. Borat, no. No. Absolutely not. Owen's hilarious. Vox versus Joe Rogan, still think you could take him? I think there's... I would have to train. I'd have to get back into training for at least 3 months before I would assume that I could do anything to anyone. I mean, the thing is, at the age that Joe and I both are, it would probably be more dependent upon who didn't have a age-related injury. And those of you who are my age will understand what I'm talking about. I mean, you wake up and you're like, how did I hurt my shoulder in my sleep? I went for a walk the other day and I came back and I'm like, why does my Achilles tendon hurt? I didn't do anything. It's just kind of a puzzle. Would love a book review on morals and dogma. I've read part of it, but I haven't read the whole thing, and frankly, I don't want to dive into that. I just finished the new Neil Stephenson, Fall or Dodge in Hell, and I've been reading Aristotle Politics. Last super chat for 2 weeks. He gave in. You got to stay strong, Legionnaire. We need to get the guy on a 12-step program, clearly. Dark Lords feel pain? Of course we do. I mean, don't you think it hurt Sauron deeply to be misunderstood the way that he was misunderstood? That's one of the books that I'm going to be writing, How to Succeed Like a Dark Lord. Because, Dark Lords get a bad rap, and it's very unfair. Because if you think about it, who is more successful than the average Dark Lord? Sauron nearly took over the entire world. Aran Deathlord nearly took over Prydain. These are not failures. Do we talk about, Julius Caesar, he couldn't hang on to Britain. He's a failure. Napoleon, he only conquered the entire continent of Europe, but, he did lose Waterloo, so he's just a nobody. No, I mean, we talk about these guys, even though they lost in the end, we talk about them as if they're some of the greatest generals and leaders in history. So why do we not show that kind of respect to Dark Lords, even when they are unsuccessful? I mean, Sauron, he starts off as a nobody lieutenant of Morgoth. Morgoth gets, defeated and ends up wherever he ends up, and, does Sauron quit? Does Sauron give up? No, he steps up, next man up. And so I just think that it's, we need to be more respectful of the accomplishments of Dark Lords. So, now, granted, Saruman, he's a little prick. He's for somebody who was on the Council of Wizards, he was an annoying little gamma. So, anyhow, so on that note, I will let you go, but thanks for tuning in. And remember, if you've just signed up as a new member of the channel, or if you've just signed up for unauthorized TV, remember that you just have to email me that you want the notifications. I don't get your email when you sign up for the channel. So if you want notifications, you have to let me know. So, all right, well, have a good evening. Remember that To defeat SJWs, it helps to understand them. This is the Darkstream. I'm Vox Day.